Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rediscovering Your Passion and Purpose with Patty. I am your Chief Pathfinder, Patty Stulen, and it is such a joy and a blessing to be able to have this platform to bring amazing people on here to share their stories. And what I love about it even more is in my small little way, I feel like I have the opportunity and I am blessed with the fact that I get to meet people from all over the world, but it's another way that I feel like I'm bringing us all together just a little bit closer to let us know that no matter where you are in the world, that there are challenges and obstacles, but there is hope and there is beauty and there is joy. And that description goes so nicely with today's guest because if you are not watching on my YouTube channel, watching this podcast, you're not seeing what I am seeing right now. And maybe that's just a little plug that you can check it out. But my guest today is Celia Barsby, and she's just glowing and colorful. And that's how I know you are going to feel throughout this interview, this podcast talk today, because Cecilia is a creative visionary and now working a personal cosmic soul guide. Celia creates a safe space for women seeking inner joy and connection to their own wisdom. You can find your passion for living in creative flow with the universe and recalibrate your life to become vibrant and magical, full of self-discovery and purpose. Your soul structures will be revealed in powerful, fun, and creative ways through various transformational tools, enabling you to flourish and grow as you reclaim your soul's purpose. And that sums up what we are going to find out all about Celia today. Celia, hello and welcome to the podcast.
Oh, wow, Patty, thank you so much. Thank you. I would love listening to that, and I would get the chills and go, oh yes, because this is my purpose to bring a little bit of light and hope, and you go, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Well, I have to give a shout out to Daniela because she was a former guest on the show a couple months back, and she was the one who recommended that you would make a wonderful guest. And just from our little talk, meet and greet that we had, immediately I knew you were someone that I wanted you to share your story with our audience because you've been there in the trenches. You know what it is like, but you also know what it's like to come out on the other side even better, and now wanting to take that and share that with others. So with that said, please share with our audience about, who you are, and where you've been and where you're going.
Okay, right. Let's do that one step at a time. Because isn't that the
Exactly.
thing?
That is that.
We
Yes.
go, where am I? Where am I now? And where do I want to be? And sometimes that can be really overwhelming. And
Oh,
you
yes.
go, goodness me, I don't even know where to start. And I'm going to speak to that a little bit later on. Who am I? Well, you might have guessed that I'm in the UK. There's a clue. People go, "Oh, you're from the UK," and I go, "Oh yeah, I am." And currently, as we're recording this, I am sort of in the middle of the UK, but I am about to embark on some amazing adventures and travels. So when this goes live, I'm excited. I will share with you at that point where I am,
Awesome.
and it may be UK, it may be Europe, and you go, oh my goodness, where will I be? And that's the excitement of the journey that I'm feeling.
Yes.
But right now, I'm in the middle of the UK, but I haven't always lived here. I lived in a number of places around the UK. I was born in Oxford, then I lived in Chester, I've lived in Bath. And those of you watching may go, oh, those are all of the places on anybody's grand tour of the UK. I've lived there. And I'm really, I feel very honoured and blessed to have had that experience, to travel around and to live in different places in the UK. So my journey, wow, well, my journey is recorded and I elaborate on in my book, In the Garden Party. It's a
Mm-hmm.
little mini tour of the UK. So if you like travel books, that's a brilliant plug. But it also reflects on my journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we start with very idyllic childhood. I was the only child of two parents who had come through the war experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they were a little older than their generation for having children. I remember as a child feeling, oh, my mum and dad are older than everybody else's.
Uh-huh.
And I think that really was the start, that I knew that I wasn't following a standard path, whatever a standard path is. But my
Right.
path didn't seem the same as other people's, as other children of my age. And then when I was 10, my dad died very, very suddenly.
Mm.
And so my path took a completely different turn.
Yes.
It was just my mum and me. And that event followed very soon after by the loss of my grandma. His mum passed as well. And I talk about, they were probably the two closest people to me in my life at that time.
Mm.
My mum was there and was the stable part of the family. It was very traditional. She didn't go to work. But your mum was the one that always told you off. She always pointed out the things I'd done wrong. So whereas I could go running to daddy as daddy's girl. But
Right, right.
that whole scenario, which after many years I realized and I could see as a trauma, actually impacted how I saw the world.
Mm-hmm.
These are the filters that I see my life through. The
Right.
people you love will leave you. I lost my dad and Nana. They went, and
Mm-hmm.
I love them. I know now how much I was loved as well. But at the time, that was the subconscious result of that trauma.
Mm-hmm.
As an only child, well, it must have been all my fault.
Oh,
Because that was it. I was the only, if anything went wrong, I didn't have any brothers or sisters to blame. So there's
right.
a deeply subconscious wound that I picked up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now responsible for my mum.
Yeah.
Again, for a 10-year-old to pick that up was huge.
Yes.
And it took years before I could look at what had happened and actually identify those filters.
Wow.
Um, and that's a lot of, this is a lot of inner work. This is reawakening
Mm-hmm.
to my soul purpose. And really I think anybody watching or listening to the show will have been drawn because they are looking for hope. And
Yes.
so as a 10-year-old, it could seem quite hopeless. I can appreciate now how my mum would have felt quite helpless and hopeless in that situation, in a very traditional relationship with her and her husband. That my mum didn't even have a bank account when
Well,
he died.
because I was just going to ask, in that traditional household, I'm sure he was the breadwinner, right? And
Sure.
and
Yeah.
did she have any kind of an education or job skills to rely on?
She did. She did. She was a nursery teacher.
Oh, okay.
And so at that point, and this is the way the universe works. She had actually gone, quote, back to work the term in which my dad died. And you go, she'd gone 10 years not working. And she persuaded him to let her have this little one-term job. So she
Oh,
actually got back into the employment market, if we, keep the
Yes.
emotion out, she went back into the employment market before she actually needed to,
Wow. That's a blessing.
isn't it? Because
Yeah.
then it wasn't, oh my, I've lost my husband and now I've also got to do the thing. And,
Yes.
when I look back, this is how the universe supports us.
Yes.
This,
Yes, you're
this
right.
is this is the support we are given.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at those experiences, she was actually given the tools she needed before she needed them.
Yes.
Um, and that has happened to me so many times in my life
Mm-hmm.
that I've gone, oh, I think I'm going to do this. And you come across the beautiful book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and I developed the habit of morning pages.
Mm.
And then my mum died 6 months later.
Oh my goodness.
I had the tools to process my emotions.
Right.
I started going to yoga. I'd pick up more journaling, regular journaling, processing my thoughts, moving my body, understanding the effect of moving energy through my body in the energy centers.
Yes.
So that at the point that I lost my mum, I had tools to allow me to muddle my way through grief. That doesn't mean we don't experience grief at
No.
huge level, but I had the tools
How
before
how
we
how
did
old
it.
were you when she passed away?
Oh, it was only how old was I? She was 91.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
so yeah,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
was. I stopped. You stopped counting. I stopped counting. So
No,
somewhere
no,
around 55.
I celebrate my 63 years and I'm more than happy to share it with everybody because, and here's
Yeah.
how I explain it is because there were people that I went to school with that never saw their 18th birthday or 21st or their 40th
Mm,
or their 50th
yeah.
because of one thing or another. And to be blessed to make it to
Yeah.
63 when so many others, family and friends, never made it to that point,
Yeah.
I not only celebrate for me, I celebrate for them.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's when I look back, I go, oh gosh, how old was I? I don't, it's that,
Yes.
um, and I'd like to just say I'm going to be 64 this year, Patty. So,
Yeah. Yeah, you go, girl. You go.
and I do celebrate that. I too have a friend who went, oh, I do know I can't cope with how old. And you go, no. Somebody said to me, how do you feel about your age? And I went, I love it. It's brilliant being
Yes,
brilliant
yes.
turning 60.
Yeah,
Um, we have wandered off the garden path as we always do. But that
exactly.
when I lean into these conversations, there will be somebody listening or watching that is going, oh yes, I'd like to feel that about my age.
Hmm.
And
That's right.
that's these things come up for a reason.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so you had learned how to through no coincidence at all about the writing journey, the journaling, that sort
yeah.
of thing. So continue on from there.
Mm. So I think what really emerged after the loss of my mum, and obviously it all links back to the loss of my dad, and all the I think what happens when you experience bereavement is you experience every bereavement you have ever
Yes.
witnessed,
Yes.
and you don't relive it, but it all of that bubbles up to the surface, and so you get to process it all again,
Yes.
which and with but from a different viewpoint.
Hmm.
um and I I mean, in somewhere in the middle of all of that, I got went through the experience of divorce, and picking up work again. um And after my mum died, particularly, I think maybe it's we are reminded very much of our mortality. And I
Yes.
went, what do I want to do with my life?
Hmm.
What am I bringing to the world? I have three beautiful children. I have currently six. I have to keep counting them. I currently have 6 beautiful grandchildren. Who
Wow.
knows by July? Well, no, they're not going to have another one by July, but there may be another one on the way.
Okay.
And I was working in an education environment. I've always been a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I've taught in formal school settings, but I've also found that whatever environment I'm in, I very naturally drop into trainer. I like explaining. I like saying, "Oh, you can't do this," or "Let me show you." So
Mm-hmm.
it's a resourcing gift that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And within this particular environment of education, I was working with 200 16 to 18-year-old lads who were all doing engineering. And I look back and I go, yeah, I had 200 sons who, I needed to ring and say, you need to get out of bed because you need to be in college.
Yes.
And have you done your assignment? And,
Mm-hmm.
I mothered them, but
Mm-hmm.
also cajoled but I was also there when they would say, well, I haven't done my assignment because, this trauma, this drama has happened in their lives.
Yes.
And one of the blessings, one of the gifts I had was to work with them as they were choosing what to do after they left college.
Mm.
And I would talk to them about, you need to do the thing that lights you up. What do you love doing? And a lot of them, would go, oh, well, I'm not very good at doing anything. And so you go, no, you are good at doing
Yes.
something, and you are uniquely good at doing that thing. You are special. And the more and more I talked about to these young lads moving into a career that they would love doing, I used to joke. I said, well, when I grow up, this is what I'd like to do. And there was very much this awareness of the universe nudging me and saying, well, when do we get to do? When are you going to actually go for it? Do the thing that you're advising everybody else to do. When do we get to do it? Because there was this sense that there was more to what I was actually doing.
I,
Um,
I I have to tell you on so many levels of what you have just been speaking about, you're telling my story. You are so telling my story. I mean, I'm relating to all of it. The divorce part, no, but the
no,
teaching part and all of that and what you're
yeah,
saying,
yeah,
I get it 100%. Been
yeah.
there, been there.
Yeah, which is, I think, why we connected,
Exactly.
and resonated. And of course, witnessing a number of my colleagues experiencing burnout, because
Yep.
when we're not doing the thing that really lights us up, eventually our body's going, oh, I'm done, I can't
Hmm.
do this anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, that showed up as not a major health issue, but those little recurring niggly, oh, I've got a throat infection, oh, I've got a sinus infection.
Yes. Yes.
Or, and notice where it is. You can't see this if you're listening. Go over to YouTube and watch, because it's from here up. It's
Yes.
from it's actually from our heart. Our heart is aching with going, you're not doing the thing we want you to do. And
Hmm.
so it starts moving it through. We get infections and we get exhausted. And that's how I experience the
I agree.
burnout.
Yes.
And we keep going and we keep going. And as teachers, we all go, oh, well, it'll be half term in, counting the days. And you go, that's no way.
No, not at
No,
all.
no way to move through our lives.
And you know it's bad on the whiteboard when you have the actual countdown that the kids can see and everything else, and you're so happy to cross off the next day, you
I
know?
know, and you kid yourself you're doing it for your class, and actually you're
Yes,
doing it for you, and you go,
exactly.
no. And I think, if for the listeners or viewers, if you get to that point when you go, I can't do this anymore, I just don't want to go down that path again. Or as in my case, I'd been through depression. I didn't want to experience that again. And I could see all the signs. It's
Mhm.
like traveling on a road and you see all the warning signs
Mm-hmm.
and you
Yep.
go, right, okay.
Hmm.
Um, there's the enlightenment piece, I think. You go, oh, and the hope, because there's something else for you.
Yes. Yes.
And and that's what I did. I went, oh, okay, right. I remember the day when I went up to my hubby, who was he wasn't even up, by the time I was leaving for work. And I said, I'm not going to resign today. And he sort of looked at me and went, but, sensing the but. And I said, but I am going to resign after Christmas.
Mm.
My students, my lads, had a deadline at the end of January. And I wanted to see them to that point when they were set for their next step on their journey. And so I stayed, and then I left. And with, I'd love to say that I had it all mapped out and I knew exactly what I was going to do, but life doesn't always work like that.
No, no, not at all.
Um, I think the trust piece comes in when we say, I knew the universe wanted me to do something, and I also knew that I had to create the space for that thing to be birthed. It
Right.
was I would love to have thought, oh well, I can do my full-time job and maybe I'll go part-time and then I'll have the business that is, and you go, no, when you get born, you don't keep one arm and leg in the womb, you're out.
And your
That
mother wants it that way too.
exactly. And you go, that image actually really supported me. And it supported me because it made me laugh. And I went, oh yeah, how ridiculous is that image?
Hmm.
Slightly grotesque.
Hmm.
You go, no, you're going to go for it.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's how I've landed here at this point in my soul garden.
Wow. Um, so through that, when you would have those obstacles, those challenges, I think one of the first things I want to ask you is, did you start to find out whether you want to classify it as burnout, which I did in my case, that's what I called it. Did you also discover that through that you were lacking in the area of self-love and self-care? Because for
Yes,
me, that was the
yes,
biggest wake up, that I knew I was in trouble
yes,
because I was morbidly obese. My cup, there was no cup. I mean, it wasn't just empty. The cup was missing, you know. I mean, that's
yes,
how bad
yeah,
I
yeah,
was doing so much for so many others. And I don't regret that. It's just that I forgot to take care of me along the way.
yeah, yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I can identify that. I certainly, there have been times in my life when if somebody had said, fill up your own cup first, I'd have gone, what cup?
Hmm.
And I love that analogy. I only got, I don't even know where my cup is. Um,
Exactly. I need to find the cup
I need to
so I
find the
can fill
cup
it.
first,
Yes.
and then I need the tools. And that
Yes.
really is what, I've talked about. I talk of myself as a teacher, but really I'm a resourcer. So that's what Garden Party is. It's a collection of tools that you can put in your toolkit. It
Mm,
is a way of reminding us every day that if we don't look after ourselves and put ourselves first, then how on earth are we going to help anybody else?
mhm,
That was my experience through marriage and having 3 children, and not putting myself first. Everybody else came first.
mhm.
And there's that self-worth piece, I think, is huge for many women of our generation.
Yes.
And we are teaching the next generation, you've got to put yourself first.
Mhm.
And because we weren't taught that.
And
And
that
to
doesn't
ask,
mean that you're being selfish, that everything's about you. It's just creating the balance between
yeah,
helping others, but remembering to help yourself as well. There
yeah,
there needs to
yeah,
be that balance of the
yeah,
two.
yeah. It's you know, I mean, it's an analogy that's been well used about the oxygen mask in a plane, and
Yes.
they always say put you on your own mask, and everybody goes, oh yeah, yeah, and you go, well, of course I would if I was in a plane. You go, but you don't do
Right.
it, but you wouldn't even question it
Right.
because you can understand the logic.
Yes. Yes, you're right.
But when it comes to our day-to-day lives, you know, I actually have a tracker because I still need to remind myself with everything that is going on around me at the moment, you know, I call it me time. It is self-care. One of those things is painting my nails
And they're
because that,
beautiful.
thank you. Had to show them off there.
Yes.
Um, because it is an old, and let me talk to you know, what does self-care look like? Because I think that there have been times when I thought, well, I don't even know what to do to look after myself. Um, but I've always painted my nail. I've always taken
Mm.
care of my nails.
Mm-hmm.
And I, you know, I expand on this. But why does this work? Because it's amazing. This is magic. Okay,
Okay.
this is the magic you get from one really simple act. When I take the polish off and massage and I touch my and I, you know, I pay attention to my body, I
Mm-hmm.
get present in my body.
Mm-hmm.
If
You're
I
in the
massage,
moment.
I'm in the moment. Nothing else matters. I'm not thinking of anything else. And I am experiencing non sexual touch, which for a human releases the feel good hormones. I'm not even going to get technical because somebody will
Well,
go,
and like what they say what a hug can do.
yes, it's like a
A hug
hug.
is the same way.
Giving yourself a hug. It's a non sexual touch. Doing my nails does that for me. Second feel good hit is it releases happy memories
Mm.
because my dad used to every Friday night, you're going to love this one. Every Friday night, he'd look at my nails. And if I hadn't bitten my nails, I got my pocket money.
Oh.
And as a 7, 8, 9-year-old, there was nothing more motivating than getting your sixpence pocket money, which makes me laugh. You know,
Uh-huh.
but it's a happy memory. It was time I had with my dad when he would go, "Have you bitten your nails?" No, I haven't, because that sixpence was calling me. You know, there it was on the table, and he
Whatever the
used
motivation is, right?
absolutely. He used to cut my nails for me. He used to take care of my nails. He was the one that did that.
Very
So
sweet.
there's that happy memory associated. And when I was in a very low place of really not being able to function terribly well, I would make a list and it would say, do my nails. Well, actually, it started with get out of bed. it was get out of bed, uh, get dressed. That was a good day. You got out of bed and you got dressed.
Mm-hmm.
Then feed the birds. There's a beautiful act of service there, which
Oh,
actually is a
I
feel
like
good.
that. Yes.
And do your nails. And then I would have 4 things that I could tick off my list. So there's a sense of achievement, which also releases feel good hormones. And so
Yes.
I love it because you go, it's a simple thing, and you go, I like painting my nails.
Mm-hmm.
But the feel good boost that you get from doing that. And I invite everybody to find that one simple thing that you can do for yourself and just reflect on you go, oh, I really like whatever it is, and
Mm-hmm.
go, well, why does that make me feel so good?
Right. Yes.
And actually, you know, unpack that,
Yeah.
to say, oh yeah, actually, you know, and then I go, and right now I can choose, you know, I have choice. What color shall I use? I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not very good at picking one,
And that's okay. You're going for all of it.
and I usually have three. And you know, and it's fun and it's quirky.
Mm-hmm.
And that is
Well, and don't
that's
you also find, Celia, that when people see your colorful hair and your colorful nails, it makes them smile or it makes them
Yeah,
happy too. You're
yeah,
bringing joy not only to yourself but to others.
yes, yeah. And and I love it. I like having colourful. I like being colourful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love when I'm out. I'm usually in the supermarket, and somebody will come and stop you, and you think, oh, yeah, can I just say, I love your hair? And I go, oh, thank you. And I've learned to receive that.
Yeah,
And
that's very important to accept it and receive it.
yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. And all of these things have have evolved because there was a time when I couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
oh, I really like that jumper you're wearing. Oh, this old thing.
Yes.
How
Yes.
many? How many of us say that?
Well,
Yeah.
and in fact, and I'm not going to say the person's name. There is a talk show host here in America, and she is very, very talented, and I really do like her as a performer. But when her guests come on, they will compliment her, and she does that same exact thing. She goes, "Oh no," and blah blah. And I don't like that because here this is somebody who is on TV, and I know there are a lot of young people
Yeah.
that are watching this show, and I know she's not doing it on purpose, but she needs to learn to accept that compliment because
Mm.
that is reflected to those in her audience to show
Yeah.
young people when you're paid a compliment, people don't have to say those things to you. So
Yeah.
accept it,
Yeah.
and take it for what it's worth. I mean, it's like an invisible hug is what it is like. It's
Yes.
important to
Love that.
accept it and receive it.
Yeah. 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 And it is that, again, were we taught as children that that's okay for somebody to say they like something.
Hmm.
There's a lot of collective wounds around all of those sort of well, ultimately it's self-worth, isn't it? When
Yes, it
we if
is.
we I like to peel back the layers of the onion and go, well, what's really going on there?
Right.
And
Yes.
it's ultimately it is our self-worth and our value,
Hmm.
and learning that we are unique and special.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Something else that you touched upon that I can relate to is you had mentioned that on those days that you're not feeling so good or so chipper, that the list that you just went through, the four things that you look to do,
Mm,
because then you know that you have accomplished something and done something for the day. And
mm,
when I do my talk about living your best dash and breaking down the dash, daring to achieve a successful and happy life, when I talk about what achievement or what success means to people, I let them know that sometimes for me, my achievement for the day or my success for the day was the fact that I got up and I got out of bed.
yeah,
That may have been
yeah.
all I could do that day, but I did it. And,
Yes,
and,
yeah,
and so sometimes it comes down to those minute things that was my win for the day. At the end of the day, what was your win for the day? And if
yeah.
that's all you can say is, I got out of bed, you had a win.
Mm,
Because sometimes you have to break it down to that little bit just to make sure that you stay good to yourself
yeah,
and
yeah,
treat
yeah.
yourself with some kindness.
Yes, yeah. It's magical key 12 in the garden party.
Oh, I'm
Celebrate your wins.
See, I've got to make sure after our interview today that I get on Amazon and I get your book. Oh, also because of what you said earlier and you shared with me before is in October I'm going to be in your part of the world on a tour, and where we're hitting are the places that you grew up in. So it's
Yeah,
like I know if I
yeah,
read her story ahead of time, that's going to give me a little heads up on what to look forward to and that sort of thing.
yeah. Lovely,
Celia,
lovely.
when
Yeah.
when did you discover, was it at a very young age or later on, when did you discover that you had a passion for helping others?
Yeah, yes, it is at a young age. I think, if I go with the teacher analogy, I mean, I was very lucky. We had a lovely big house. I was the only child there, and I had a playroom.
Mm.
Really odd, really blessed. And I had a blackboard, and I had chairs that I used to sit my dolls and teddies on, and I had a mark book, and they do their spellings. And yes, I loved that teaching aspect. And then I think it was really, I guess, at secondary school, I was aware how others would come and say, "Oh, have you, do you know how have you done this maths question? Um, I'm doing this, and have you done it? And can you help?" Although very often those words, "can you help," are not very, because those are really difficult words to say. But have you done it? And I
Right.
go, "Oh yeah," and you go, "Oh, what I don't understand," and you go, "Oh well, I'll show you." And that act of demonstrating to others so that it enabled them was something that gave me a buzz.
Right.
I then decided that whatever I did for my career, given that my mum was a teacher, my uncle was a teacher, my cousin was a teacher, there was no way that I was ever going to be a teacher. Okay.
You were going to rebel.
I was going to rebel. Um, and yeah, I was absolutely adamant that I was not going to do that. And then it was actually when I was at university, I had the opportunity to help in a local church at the Sunday school. And I realized I just loved it. I just love that interaction and explaining and coming up with ideas. And so, the universe went, well, yes, let's just get her back on track, uh, back on the path. And so yes, I went and did my teacher training at that point. So it's always been there, and I think for sort of, again, I'm always sort of thinking, what would your viewers and your listeners, what little nugget, what's the gem that you can take from this, is notice the resistance. Often the thing that you are really good at doing and you absolutely love doing, you then experience resistance. You go, "I'm not going to do that." That is very human, to deny ourselves the things that make us feel good, that light us up. And so, if you're saying, "Well, I don't really know what I'm good at," it's probably the thing you're resisting doing.
Wow.
I mean,
That's an aha moment. I mean, that really is. I
I
never
still
thought of it in those
experience
terms
it.
before.
Yeah, I still experience it. I
Yeah.
still experience the resistance around. Recently, it was around doing a live in my Facebook group. This is going to go out weeks later, and they'll all have forgotten. But I realized I was putting it off. I was procrastinating. I was resisting going, because there were so many other really, really important things that I needed to be doing, and I couldn't possibly go and do that. And then I read my own words that said the reason I do that live is actually it is my daily practice and I choose to share it. So who was I not showing up for? Me.
You.
Me. I was really the only one that was missing out hugely because I wasn't doing the thing.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, ah. And, there's that loving relationship that we can have with the voice of fear, who in my world has a number of different hats. And on that particular occasion, it was appearing as the procrastination pixie. That was the hat
I
that
love
it was
that.
wearing. And you go, no, it's just fear that is making sure we have everything we need.
Yes.
Just saying, are you sure you really want to do that? And you go, yes, I do. And I'm really good at it. And this is what we're going to do. And, it's not scary. Nobody's going to die. We're going to show up for ourselves. And that's really what I ask the women who work with me, is you just have to show up for yourself. That
Yes.
really, if you show up for yourself, then we can do the tools and we can do all of the things. The magic then happens.
Right.
and it's about permission.
Yes, most definitely. So, you had mentioned that you had experienced depression, and that was
Mm.
something, an area you did not want to go back to. Um, so I know with my own period of depression, I didn't feel like I had a passion or purpose anymore. That was part of the problem that was
Yeah.
going on. Did you find that same thing? And if you did not, how did you, what were the tools or what were the people that you reached out to help you during that time period?
Mm. Great question. So, um, the first instance of realizing, because I kept going, oh, I'm not depressed, because that was oh, I'll possibly be depressed,
Hmm.
how dare you be depressed?
Hmm.
So I resisted that for a long while, until there was the point when, I just was sitting unable to stop crying, and I was a mess.
Hmm.
I couldn't function. And, my very dearest good friend said to me, "You think you might be depressed?" And I went, "Oh, that's what it
Ding,
is."
ding, 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 ding.
Ding, 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 ding. Yes, yes. Because so, there's that, who have you got around you that you love and trust, that really knows you? And that in that case was that very dear friend. Because everybody, your immediate close family just want you to keep going,
Yes,
I think.
yes.
So that was my first experience of major depression, stroke breakdown, which I now I reclaim that as my breakthrough. That was my
Very good.
first breakthrough.
Awesome.
And what tools did I have? Very few, very
Mm-hmm.
few.
Mm-hmm.
I went to professional counseling, because I
Mm-hmm.
went, I can't do this. I can't dig myself out of this hole on my own. So I
Mm-hmm.
accepted that help. Um, and I remember this beautiful lady saying to me, "What do you like?" And I went, "I don't know. I have
Mm.
no idea. I don't know what I like." A bit like, where's what cup? I had no idea. And she helped me um, lean into. She said, "Well, tell me one thing you've done this week that you liked doing." Um, and it was going out for a cup of coffee.
Mm.
And so we unpacked that and went, "Well, what was it about going for a cup of coffee that made me feel good?" Well, I was with other people, even though, every cell of my body was going, "I just want to go and hide in a hole."
Yes.
But I was with other people, but not in any threatening way. Everybody was just having a cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I had choice. I chose what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody else brought me a cup of coffee. They served me,
Mm-hmm.
and receiving that service was a tool that I learned that actually that would had those feel good factors.
Right.
Um, I think, looking back, I had very few tools on that first um, episode, shall we say. Um, I started to explore creativity, um, which was an interesting um, old story. So you're allowed to make things, okay? You're allowed to knit, crochet, sew, because it has a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But to stitch a random piece of fabric that isn't going to be a thing, which I found absolutely fascinating and I loved doing, and I liked stamping bits of paper and everything. It was never going to be a thing. But that gets your creative juices flowing. And I think, my mum, bless her, never understood that, because if you were going to be creative, you had to make a thing.
Mm-hmm.
the damage that has been done somewhere along the line to the collective consciousness about creativity is probably a whole other podcast. You know, if you're going to play a musical instrument, then you've got to do your grades and you've got to be the best and you've got to go and play in an orchestra, because what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all of those old stories that surface for us. So I'd started with the creativity journey. The second major episode of depression was actually after my mum had been, she'd been in and out of hospital for a lengthy period one summer. Interestingly, right in the middle of the college holidays. So I didn't have a holiday because I was, looking after her. And then a period of 6 months when I was trying to look after her and trying to do the job. And I just went, and
Mm-hmm.
throw all my toys out the pram and go, I can't do this anymore. And I was actually off work for 6 to 8 weeks. But I never told my mum that she thought I was working, because that was the only way I was going to, have that space
Mm-hmm.
to actually develop some tools. And that's
Mm-hmm.
when I discovered the yoga. I really leaned into the journaling. I'd always, excuse me, always enjoyed writing my feelings. I found, and I like, that the thought coming through my arm and out
Mm-hmm.
through a pen. There's something for me that is really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
There are also, I mean, I do talk about journaling as a tool in Garden Party, and you can journal in any way you like, but there is a power when you connect with your, the hand to the pen to the paper.
Yes.
I mean, I now have a digital pen and paper
Mm.
because I'm going on the road, but that's
Oh,
another
yeah.
story.
Yeah.
But I still recognize that I need that capability. I need that energy flow out of my
Mm-hmm.
hand onto the paper.
Mm-hmm.
More creativity. I then discovered, as I sort of moved down that path, I discovered cosmic smashbooking, and I trained as a cosmic smashbook facilitator, as a guide.
Mm.
And that allows me to bring the energy of intentional creativity. So I can journal all over a page, and then I can cover it all with paint, and then I can put some pictures down, I can slosh another layer of paint. So the whole cosmic smashbooking, I talk about cosmic smashbooking found me.
That's very cool.
It's an amazing process,
I've
and
never heard of that.
I use that. That's really what I do in my group and on my YouTube, is share that process, which I've is a cross between, I think I've probably veered slightly off the straight cosmic smashbooking path, and it becomes a soul journaling. I
Awesome.
move I move energy with color.
Mm-hmm.
Today I entered a state of calm by looking at the colors on the page,
Wow.
and it's a powerful technique. So more creativity, again, part of the Garden Party program is, we are creative, um, and we get to use that as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Several things that I want to touch on that you just talked with us about is that you were wise enough to realize that you did not have the tools in your toolbox to
yeah.
deal with the depression and what was happening with you, and you reached out to a professional. And I
Mm,
think for most of us in the baby boomer age,
mm,
there's always been this feeling that if you had to go see a professional, there was a weakness to you that you couldn't
yes,
fix it yourself,
yes.
and I don't want to use the word shame, but I think there was that
Yeah.
intrinsic
Mm,
feeling that,
mm,
well, I should be able to fix this myself. And I think that
mm,
that is so great of what I'm seeing with today's generation is they are recognizing more and more they need help. And it
Yeah.
is not shameful to seek a counselor or a psychologist or therapist or whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
And uh, and just realizing to yourself, I need help because I don't have the tools. That's
Mm.
powerful. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
so
yeah.
so great,
And
great on.
I think, isn't it interesting that if my washing machine broke, I would have no problem with trying to ring somebody up and get them to come in and fix it.
No, no,
So
that's the first thing
why?
you think of doing.
I know. But when we are, and you're right, I think it is seen as a weakness, and I think shame is the word. I remember feeling that depression first time round. You mean I had to go to counselling? And you go, I look back and I go, yes, of course I did. That's
Hmm.
the best thing I could do for myself.
Yeah.
Um, and I
Oh,
think that's possibly why there are a lot of a lot of us are moving into coaching,
yes.
because actually a professional footballer has no problem with having a coach,
No.
and they
No.
are, they are valued.
Yes.
And but somehow it's got all twisted up and knotted up in the brambles when it comes to what do I need, what do I need today.
Right.
uh,
Well,
and if I haven't got that tool, then how can I access that tool?
exactly. And the other
Yeah.
thing that you touched upon that I can totally relate to, and I want to share with others, is when you said about tapping into the creative process. Because
Mm,
when I knew I was experiencing burnout and I was too young still, I still had a few more years that I had to go before I could reach a decent retirement.
mm,
My very dear friend, Sue Connor, who is an artist herself, she said, you know what, Patty? When you start feeling really, really bad or in that dark place, I just want you to get a piece of paper. And even if there's a time during class where your kids are busy doing something else, I want you to take that piece of paper and I just want you to start drawing. It doesn't need to make any sense whatsoever. Just whatever you feel like doing, X's and O's or circles or whatever it may be, just let the pen do its thing. And
yeah.
just and so she told me, she goes, I'm calling it Zen Doodle. Just do whatever
Wow.
you want. And I said to her, because I mean, I was never taught to draw, but I was a self I taught myself how to draw and I loved it. But like you said, it had to have a purpose. There had to be I mean, I had to be drawing something specific, you know?
Mm,
What do you
mhm.
mean? I'm just gonna put pen on paper and I'm just gonna let the pen do whatever. Are you kidding? There's got to be a reason for it. And you know what? And when she talked to me enough about just go with it. There is no right or wrong about it. It took me on a totally different plane and space, and immediately I would feel my body relax, and I
Mhm.
wouldn't be beating myself up internally, and I just felt better because it was okay. There was no right
Yeah.
or wrong to it. And here I am, gosh, now what is it? 13, 14 years later, and I still do it. And what
Mm,
I'm creating, I have no idea what I'm going to start out doing,
mm.
and there might be a moment of, oh, you just made a mistake. Nope, there's no mistakes. Just go with it. Turn it into something else.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
creative part is in all of us. And tapping into that and knowing there's no right or wrong, just go with it. It's so freeing.
Mm, mm. An absolutely beautiful exercise, if you like, is just, have that piece of paper, shut your eyes and choose
Yes.
a crayon, and just move the crayon over in fact, I automatically went with my non-dominant hand,
Mm,
move that crayon over the paper, and then have a look at it. Scribble drawings are beautiful. And then
yes.
you can turn them into quirky characters or
Yes. Yes.
procrastination pixies or whatever. But and then it's an interesting journey to then get curious and say, oh well, that's really interesting. I wonder why I chose that color. Because you knew what color, even though you didn't agonize
Hmm.
over it. Your body knows the color that you need. And you can, if you do any chakra work or energy center work, you can start going, oh, that's really interesting. My body is saying that, I've covered this page in red. which is our root energy center, and we're not feeling safe about something. So you could then take that to a journal and say, oh, okay, so come on then, what is it? What's going on? You know, I give the pen occasionally to my voice of fear and say, go on then, tell me what's the matter. You know, tell me all the things you want to say. And I write and write and write. On the left, in Cosmic Smash Booking, we always work across a double page spread. But in this exercise, we work on one side and we go, right, go on then, I'm giving you free rein. And so, you know, it starts off with all of the things that I'm doing wrong. And of course, you should have known this. And why on earth didn't you do that? And eventually, your voice of fear will come up with something so ridiculously funny that you go, oh, really? Is that the best you can do? And then it sort of fizzles out and go, oh, okay. And then you can look at that and you can counter on the other side of the page all of those things you know are not true. But you can counter and go, well, actually, this isn't true. Here's the evidence that, you know.
Because that self-doubt, we give it way too much power.
Yes, yeah. But actually, if you let it have it, if you give it a bit of headroom, it doesn't last very long. It runs out of space very, very quickly.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
So Celia, how did you decide on what the name of your book was, and to basically that's the foundation of your transformational coaching program, correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's Soul Garden Party. From my love of gardens and the analogies that I'm given that I feel are downloads from time in the garden and how I tend my garden, how I look after my garden. I prune, I weed, I feed, I nurture. I grow, I plant seed, all of the things that we do naturally in a garden. If we actually do that for ourselves, then we are nurturing our soul. And that's really the essence of the garden party. And how much fun anyway. Who doesn't love a garden party?
Exactly.
Because it makes you feel special, you know. Yeah. So yes, that is where the name came from as in that program, because that's what I teach is that nurturing and the loving relationship that you have with your garden. Then, you know, let's do that for ourselves.
And then that's what you help people when they choose to work with you, help them to discover about themselves.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is.
So, and I can tell it's totally your passion and purpose, because you just glow when you talk about it. What would you say is the very best piece of advice that anyone has ever given you?
Ooh. Keep it simple, make it easy. We get very overcomplicated very easily. I was out in the garden the other day clearing brambles, and if you know bramble, are we good with bramble?
Weeds.
Yeah, weeds that are spiky and, you know, can do some damage. They're sharp and spiky weeds. And you know, we can get ourselves tied up in the brambles so easily that if we go, actually, let's keep it simple, make it easy, and then we could, you know, the path is clear. We're the only ones that dump stuff and put the obstacles in the way.
Yeah, most definitely. So when you share an idea that you're very excited about, what I call, you know, you're having a wow moment and you're sharing it with other people, and someone, what I refer to as yucks your wow, like, are you kidding? How do you respond to that person when they do that?
I think I would get curious about their response, because that essentially is a resistance. And if we come from the place of, well, actually, what we what we resist the most is what we are crying out for, then I think that would be, I mean, it may be somebody who isn't, I'm not resonating with, and they are not for me. You know, they are not my perfect match.
Right.
And in that case, you know, to lovingly release somebody and say, you know, I hope you find the person that you do need, then, you know, I think it's really important as a coach that we don't water down our message to one size fits all.
Yes.
Because I have my values, I have my message that I know works for the people that are called to work with me. The other thing is, I think sometimes we're given challenges and experiences to actually check in with ourselves, you know, and
Yes.
go, well, is that true? You know, and if there's some truth in that, then that's some exploring that I get to do for myself.
Yes. Yes.
But generally, I am confident in my message. I know my program works because I do it every day. You know, this is something I do. It's a tool,
Yes.
but I work through my own program. I go, oh, you know, something will happen. I'll go, oh, going through the mill. Yes. Okay. What do I need? What do I need with this challenge? Because I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed and I'm feeling a lot of pressure. And you go, right, well, it's about being in flow and it's about building resilience. So yeah,
Good.
I hope that answers
Excellent.
them.
So I know that, you know, you and your husband are getting ready to do the grand adventure, which I'll let you share a little bit back with that. But it goes along with what my next question for you is what are you what are right now at this point in your life, what are you passionate about personally and professionally?
Personally, it's let's say getting the show on the road. You know, it is right. We want to do this thing, which is allowing us to really question what matters to us. Where are we putting our value? And that's not in things, because if we're going on the road, as you know, things are not, you know, aren't going to be traveling with us a lot of the time. Professionally, what I'm passionate about is, and it's tied up really with the whole going on the road, is seeing how I can. The phrase I get is, I get to go first. If I am calling women to say, be your best, authentic, rebellious, quirky version of yourself, I get to go first.
Yes.
I get to model what that looks like. Now, not everybody that works with me is going to, you know, chuck in their job and go on the road.
Right.
But, you know, I'm not saying that you have to do
But
that.
it's the metaphor behind it.
Yes, absolutely. Is saying, actually, be free. You know, my program is called Free to Be Me. And that is that's what we get to do. And that's what I'm passionate about, is encouraging women to say, yes, I have permission to be me, to be the best version of myself that I was designed to be. And we're just peeling back the layers to say, what does that look like?
So what would you say that your purpose professionally and personally is right now?
Um, oh, my purpose. My purpose is to open up the garden metaphor for others. I want for others to be able to see and share and experience that magic for themselves. My program, the structure of my program is 15 magical keys that unlock each of those layers as we move through. So yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. So, Celia, what would you say is your superpower?
Oh, my superpower is moving energy with color.
Ah, how cool
That's
is that?
yes, yeah. That is something that I reckon, and I've learned to claim that. Um,
Hmm.
because for a long time I went, well, I just do this. But I realized that actually that is a superpower.
It is, most definitely. And I love it. And it's something that I'm going to be exploring after we're done
Yeah.
here. I'll tell you that. Um, so how are you living your best life, or as I like to call it, living your best dash?
Living my best, Dash. I love that. I think it is listening to our intuition, our that connection with our higher self, who wants the best for us, who can see the whole plan laid out. I mean, it must be so frustrating. Sometimes I think my higher self must be so frustrated because going, what is she doing over there? Get her back on the path. But yeah, it's living that best life, following my being heart led, not
Hmm.
head led,
Hmm.
not doing it from from a very logical and oh you should do this and you should do that. It's no, I come from my heart center, because when I speak from the heart, when I act from the heart space, then generally things go a lot better than when
Yes.
I come up with a bright idea and going, oh, I could do this. And you go,
Hmm.
but actually, how does that feel? How does that feel?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, are there any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, I'm going to share this because I always lean into what is going on around me when I am on a summit or a podcast. And you may have noticed the light changed
Mm,
significantly in the course of our conversation.
yes.
And initially I was thinking, oh my goodness, it's getting dark. The light's really, and there's going to be all these shadows. And so that's what wants to come forward. And it's this: do not fear your shadow. We get to explore our shadow side, the work, and that's where we get the greatest transformation.
Hmm.
So the fact that I have got shadows all around me, I'm leaning in and going, yeah. Are you be afraid of the dark places? Because there was a time, in depression, I didn't want to go to the muddy places. I didn't want to go to the darkness. But actually, that's where we experience the transformation. So, I've learned that there's a time in my life when I would have, said to you, oh, Patty, we can't possibly continue because, my life's not right. This isn't perfect. And you go, no, actually, this is totally perfect,
Hmm.
because this is what wants to come through. This is the message that when we connect and really get curious about our shadow, our aspect of self that makes us feel uncomfortable. So, what's that for me? That's my perfectionist
Hmm.
going, oh, what's that going to look like? Well, actually, if you're listening, you'll go, what is she talking about?
Right. Exactly. I don't see anything.
And then that's it, isn't it?
Hmm.
What is our perception?
Hmm.
And so really I think that's what wants to be magical key number 9, shadow work.
But going right along with that, Celia, I want to share with you my perception of what I am seeing and what I have been witnessing. Yes,
Yeah.
your background has been dimming, but what I have seen is you lighting up. I see this brightness of you, which is what now this being the second time that I am being honored and blessed to be in your presence. I see you shining through so brightly. Even those people that are listening now and are not even able to see this, I know that through your voice and through your message, that they feel that brightness that you emanate right now. That's what I see, is a glow and a brightness. and how anyone could not be happy or be in a joyful or inspired place right now would be beyond me. Whether you're watching it or whether you are listening, you are a complete joy and a bright light on this earth.
Patty, I receive that with deep gratitude, and thank you so much for those words. Thank you.
Every bit of it is true. And I cannot thank you enough for being my very delightful guest today on my podcast. I know that there are going to be people that will want to get your book and talk with you and connect with you. So how can people do that?
Okay, so even though I'm going to be on the road, I'm still going to have internet. We're working hard on that one. So go and check out my website, www.celiabarsby.com. Keep it simple, make it easy. And I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube under Soul Garden Party. And I have a very special guest. I'll start that sentence again.
Take two.
Breathing into the energy. I have a very special gift for your viewers and for your listeners.
Wow.
And that is a module from the Garden Party. It's Magical Key number 1, the start of the journey. And so I know the link will be in the show notes for that. I'd love to offer you that gift. It includes a permission slip. So, you know, if you're needing that permission, then grab that gift, sign up to my website, and then you will be connected through the Garden Party.
Wow, that is terrific. Thank you so much for offering that. And I encourage each and every one of you watching and listening, take advantage of that gift. I know that wherever you are on your life's journey, it is bound to just add to the joy that life has in store for you. So thank you once again, Celia, for being here, being a light, being an inspiration, and bringing hope and motivation to a world that desperately needs it in many, many ways. And thank you for this time with you. It's been magical.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been wonderful. Thank you, Patty.
And for all of you out there listening, remember to subscribe and follow this podcast. And you know what? Go ahead and invite your family and friends to also subscribe as well. Don't forget to check out my website at www.pathwayswithpatty.org and then sign up for a Zoom chat with me. Or if you'd like to be a podcast guest, reach out. I'd love to chat with you and have you on here, just like Celia was with us today. So remember, until we meet again, continue to live your best dash and know that life's an adventure, and I want you to enjoy the journey because your life matters. Thank you for joining us today, and may God bless you all.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.